Hi everyone, welcome to the shack for this weekend update. I think for the first time since I started doing these about 18 months ago, I'm actually recording this video at night. In fact, the actual time is midnight 15 local time, and it's Thursday evening. I thought it would just make a change, and I'm in the middle of something actually quite interesting that I'm going to carry on over the weekend, and that's I'm actually doing some shortwave listening. So I started up on 19 meters and copied a really strong signal from North Korea, from the Voice of Korea, and I've basically just been winding the frequency down. Took it down to 5 megahertz, sort of 60 meters. But I've gone back up because I have a signal for the first time in a long time from Radio Nacional Amazonia in Brazil on 11.780, and this is quite exciting for me. And I've been recording it on several receivers. This is the Yaesu FRG 8800 on Narrow FM. So you can hear there's actually audio. I also recorded it on the ICR75, which you can see on the screen, and also on the ICF 2001D, the Sony, the portable, taking advantage, of course, of synchronous detection. I've also recorded a couple of videos that I'm not sure whether I'm going to upload them or not. They've got traces of audio from Radio Brazil Central on 11.815 kilohertz, and that really is some time since I recorded any audio from that station, from Europe at least. Obviously copied them when I was in South America a lot. So I'm feeling a little bit inspired to continue some shortwave listening over the weekend, and I mean broadcast shortwave listening. Well, I've just also recorded Radio Charleston International from Berlin, which I wasn't aware of, and I did look them up on YouTube after I recorded their signal. They just seem to play sort of that Charleston 1920s style music, and that's basically all they seem to do. So you don't have to come across some weird and wonderful transmissions on shortwave. So that's going to be interesting. The Yaesu FRG 8800, which I'm using, was actually the first boat anchor that I bought. In fact, it was the second radio I bought when I got back into DXing in 2015. The first radio I bought was PL 360, little handheld. You guys know what that radio is, for 30 quid. And I spent a few months actually just using that radio. It seems incredible now to think that that was all I was using for during the summer. And then in the late summer, I bought the Frog 8800 from eBay. That was the second radio that I bought, and I remember it just sat on my desk for a couple of days. I wasn't really sure where to start. I was a bit concerned that I couldn't hear very much when I attached a piece of wire about a metre long to it. But of course, the rest is history. And that's an interesting radio for me, because I remember seeing it in Shortwave magazine when I was a kid, and wanted it, and obviously could never afford it. And so now I've had one for I've had this one 5 or 6 years, and it's a keeper. I won't sell it. And it's pretty well. It's a pretty well performing radio. It was never the best in class. Probably the best in class was the radio next to it, the NRD 525. But a radio that I enjoy actually using most is probably the ICR 75. Superb display, simple to use, push button entry for the frequency. Setting the tuning, how final course tuning is, etc. Basically, it's just a really simple radio to use. Excellent sensitivity, super selectivity, Audio is a bit sort of questionable, and the and some of the standard audio filters, particularly, well, narrow's too narrow and wide's too wide basically. But if you use it on sideband, it's an amazing radio to use, and it's a radio that I use a lot actually. And so this weekend I'm going to be playing around with that radio and the 8800. What else? So I'm working on an article for Radio User Magazine, which I can't say any more about, but it involves some portable receivers, and I better leave it at that. I'm a bit behind schedule actually with that, so hopefully over the weekend I'll get a bit of time to catch up on that. And then there's the usual ham radio stuff. So the FT991, which I use here for our 2-meter simplex net on Saturday, and GB3DI, the net on that repeater on Sunday. And then for the HF stuff, I tend to use the Kenwood because it's just an easy 200 watts. I haven't used my 7300 actually for quite a while. At the moment it's connected to my linear, but I just don't really find a reason to use it because as far as the nets are concerned, the 200 watts that the Kenwood pushes out is more than enough. And the difference between that and the 300 watts that I might squeeze out of that amplifier is kind of neither here nor there really. The other thing is that the amplifier complains of high SWR when I use it on top band, and I still don't know why that is, but it works fine on 80 meters. So if I start the net with the 7300 and the linear, I've literally got to have the linear off during the first part of the net on top band, and then fire the linear up for 80, which makes QSYing up just a sort of little bit more of a pain. No, it's doable, but it's just another reason really why I sort of tend to gravitate towards the Kenwood. Great radio to use, very intuitive. As I said, 200 watts, which that little bit of extra power can sometimes be useful. So yeah, difficult to know really what to do with the 7300. I'm not planning to get rid of it, but I simply don't use it. So yeah, so that's it. So I don't know, I'm not sure. Problem is, if you buy a radio from Martin Lynch and Sons and you try and sell it back to them, even if you haven't had it very long, you'll get about half your money back. I wouldn't mind betting if I offered that radio back to them and it's like a year old and I paid 1,200 quid for it, I wouldn't mind betting they'd offer me probably 600 or 700, you know, so it's just not worth it. The other thing I'm going to be doing this weekend is I'm going to continue playing around with JS8 Call. Now, I don't have it up on my computer because I haven't been doing that tonight, but JS8 Call is a piece of software that allows you to utilize the JS8 digital mode. It's very similar to FT8, except that with JS8 you can actually perform a QSO without having sort of fixed messages. You can basically type messages and have a conversation. Now, I first tried this, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, and I found it so incredibly slow to have even the simplest of conversations. I gave up with it. Anyway, 3 years went by, and then a couple of members in the club, particularly Hamish and Jack. Hamish is G0JLG and Jack is M0J MJW. Hamish started using it and then was interested to know if anyone else in the club would be interested in having a go. So Jack set himself up, and I was already set up, and it kind of, we were chatting about it actually on the 2-meter net last weekend, I think it was. And I hadn't even thought about it for a long time, but it inspired me to fire the software up again and have another go. So I did that and was immediately presented with a dialog box which said basically this software's out of date, there's a much newer version. So I downloaded the new version, and it just loaded up absolutely no problem at all. Within minutes I was typing CQ or calling CQ on JS8 Call, and I immediately worked a station, I think it was in Italy. Basically I worked a foreign station straight away, had a conversation, and it was a bit quicker than I remember. Now I don't know whether that's because it just so happened that when I tried this the first time around, propagation was rubbish or not. I don't actually know, but it seems to be a bit quicker now, and it does work. So I had Hamish came on, and we had a QSO, and as did Jack. And yeah, I'm going to give that another go. I've only tried it. I tried it on 6 meters, and there was literally nobody on 6 using JS8. And so I QSY'd over 40 meters, and there's always someone on. What's interesting though is the number of active monitors. I looked on PSK Reporter, and there was nobody monitoring JS8 on 6 meters at all, which explains why I put some calls out and didn't get any replies. On 40 meters, I think PSK Reporter noted there were 87 stations listening to JS8 on 40 meters. Now, if you swap over to FT8 on 40 meters, there's thousands of probably stations listening. So just goes to show it's still very niche. It does work, and it is sort of quite compelling until you get tired of how slow it is, which is what happened to me. But I've given it a go on 40. I've worked Hamish on 40, and I've worked Jack. At least I think it was on 40 anyway. So I'm going to have another play around with that this weekend, and I'll get it up and running again, and I'll probably do a video, not on how you set JS8 Call up, that's all been done, but I might set up a video or record a video that just sort of demonstrates how you conduct a QSO with somebody. And I mean, it's pretty open-ended really. There are various ways of doing it, but I think it would make an interesting video, and it is the kind of logical progression from FT8. The problem with FT8 is that on HF it just seems too easy now. I've made over 1,000 contacts on FT8 on HF, and I've been decoded as far as New Zealand, Australia, etc., down into the Antarctica. I've been decoded by the German Antarctic Research Station and the South Korean. So FT8 itself doesn't really present much of a challenge on HF anymore, and that's kind of why I sort of QSY'd to 2 meters and spent quite a lot of time last year doing FT8 on 2 meters. I've even tried it on the 70 SEMs, but only a couple of stations actually copied me at all on 70 SEMs, so I gave up on that. And I've done it on 6 meters a lot recently, and that's always, well, when the band is up, the European stations come crashing in on the screen, on the left hand, on the activity screen on the left hand side of the software, JS8 Call. So that's been fun. So I'm going to try and have another go at JS8 Call, and hopefully speak to some other club members. Now, one of the club members, Hamish, thinks it would be a good idea to set up a net using JS8 Call, which is possible, of course. But thinking about it, my goodness, would it be slow? You'd be waiting around for signals to send and to be received. But it is feasible. You can do it. So whilst I'm probably going to be playing around with JS8 Call, in the meantime, Hamish may well, or somebody else may well, organise an official sort of club net to do that, which I will join in and have a go with. But yeah, my goodness, it'd certainly be a slow process, that's for sure. So there you go. I think that's about it really. That's me done for another weekend. Everyone's a bit worried that Boris may decide to completely relax all of the restrictions, and that does worry me slightly, I've got to say. So I'll be staying in the shack as much as possible, and fingers crossed that this bloody COVID pandemic nightmare is nearing the end. Anyway, again, just a good excuse to sit in the shack and play with some radios. That's the way I see it. So thanks for watching, and thanks for your comments on the YouTube channel. I do really appreciate them, and yeah, I'll upload this video probably tomorrow, so it'll probably be available to view on Saturday morning, I hope. So anyway, with that, I wish you all 73. Thanks for watching. Keep safe and talk to you again soon. 73 all.